Hi there. I'm excited to share this with you. I'll be releasing one chapter of my first book every week until the entire story is complete. You can listen while you're working, driving, or just kicking back in your favorite spot. Some chapters will be short, others a bit longer, but every one of them is free to enjoy. If it's not your thing, that's totally okay, no hard feelings. But if you like it, feel free to tune in each week or even share it with a friend. Can't wait for the next chapter? No problem. Scan the QR code on your screen to purchase the full book on Amazon. Happy listening.
Chapter 1. The Setup. Who is this freak? One of the would-be robbers exclaims while turning toward Chad and focusing all his attention in that direction. The villain is clearly offended that Chad even has the audacity to say something, let alone actually approach them. His face contorts like the sewer smell is not the only bad smell in the area. As he talks, he sizes Chad up. Taking particular note of Chad's form in his workout attire and the gym bag, he concludes that Chad is coming from the gym. Even at the sight of that athletic figure, his confidence is not swayed because he knows that he has his two-man posse with him in the wings. The man holding the purse turns toward Chad as well and drops the purse. Cracking his knuckles, he says, "You gonna come preach to us, you freak? I don't care how good of a workout you got today, that don't make you a hero." He starts to step toward Chad, and all the others follow suit and form up on the sides of him. "All right, hero," he rasps. "Let's see how you handle yourself with these odds." At that, the guy to his left lunges in and rams his fist directly into Chad's abdomen as if he were trying to break through to his spine. Chad topples and falls to his knees, holding his stomach. With all attention on him, the lady grabs her purse and runs out of the other end of the alleyway. Chad, who is still reeling, thinks, "What now, Lord?" while watching the lady disappear around a corner. Many thoughts swim in his head. Though he understands, there is a slight disappointment in the fact that the lady he just saved had no problems leaving him alone to the wolves. On top of that, his stomach is a little queasy, and he is having trouble taking back in the air that was expelled from the punch. "Look at him crumble," one of the less physically endowed thugs says from behind their leader. The lead thug looks at his group members and points at Chad. They instantly understand and jump into action. Who is this Chad, and, for that matter, how does he find himself in this dreadful situation? To get the full effect, the story has to begin earlier in the day, and some explanation must be given about the world that this story takes place in. But most importantly, you must be familiar with faith and its life-altering, perception-changing, stabilizing abilities. Faith is something that cannot truly be explained. It is both logical and emotional, which makes it simple but complex. It guides people's decisions and gives hope in impossible situations. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. While everyone is looking for their best life, some believe that they have found it in being obedient to Christ. We are going to talk a lot about Christian belief because that is the origin of Jesus freak. Here, the God of the Bible is real, and he has the power to call men to action, just like in the Bible. There are still people that may doubt his existence, and his followers may live in different ways. Some live lives that follow the principles of the Bible blindly, knowing that God is in those words, and some receive instruction directly from God in one way or another. Did you know that most people think that the ultimate sacrifice is to die for faith? But a few know that the ultimate sacrifice is to live by faith. This has to be understood in order to fully comprehend this story. Men have always struggled with God's will versus their own, but this story is about faith and where it can lead you. In this world where most people are ordinary, just like you, but a select few have been given abilities and powers that rivals the powers of comic book characters, it is easy to think of those special people as gods. It is a world of criminals, heroes, and villains with gifts beyond our comprehension, but the Word of God is still relevant. Because of our own limitations, people tend to think that God's ability to use them shrinks in the face of powerful men, but they forget that God is all-powerful. They forget that God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. That's a good place to start this story. because Chad Tanning's life is about to be turned upside down by this principle. Chad Tanning is an ordinary man and adamant follower of Christ. He has a wife who worries about him and many other things, a job in investing that yields him a comfortable 6-digit figure a year, and a very tamed life that follows God's principles. He even remained a virgin until the day he was married. To top it off, his best friend is the pastor of the church he attends. Seeing Chad interact with his friend is one of the best ways to show his personality and his passions. He has no idea what this day is about to bring to his ordinary life. Currently, he sits in an office with his pastor talking about things that God has told him and how he feels about all of it. Between them is one of the most beautifully crafted simplistic desks ever seen. The wood glistens from the protective shine coating that covers the dark colonial maple stained surface. The middle panel is slightly less ruddy than the rest of the desk, which lends itself perfectly to a grain design on the desktop. The swirls of the wood seem natural upon first look, but after looking for a while, the curves start to form two large hearts, a man-made design for sure. One sits on top of the other, but both point toward the pastor with the larger top side toward his guest. It gives the feeling of a hug as the sides stretch out wide, welcoming the visitor. The desktop is completely empty with the exception of a standing cross on the right side of the desk, which leaves nothing between the pastor and his guest. Behind the pastor is a matching credenza that holds his essential office supplies and computer monitor. The walls of the office are a peaceful and warm beige with many framed photos on them. Some are of the pastor and his family, while others show him with members of his congregation. The office is well organized and beautiful, the kind of place that would be perfect for talking out your issues or just handling business. The conversation has already started, and the two gentlemen talk like friends. "You sound so excited when you talk," the pastor says. He looks at Chad and sees the look of sheer delight that adorns his visage. "Well, it is amazing, the times we live in. God has allowed some people to have abilities that far surpass our imagination. Some of them use them for good, some for evil, and some not at all. It's like living in a comic book. The more I discover, the more I want to know," Chad replies. His excitement is still evident even though he is trying to restrain himself. The pastor attempts to finish his point, saying, "I'm just saying that it is different than when you first came to me, telling me that God wanted you to study and research these." Putting two fingers on each hand in the air like quotation marks, he emphasizes, "Heroes and villains." While bending those fingers, he continues, "It started off as an assignment but seems to have become a passion." Chad changes his tone a little by dropping it down to a more calm and settled pattern. He begins to explain. "Well, yeah, I guess you were right. I did not think so at first, but it is all really fascinating stuff. I've learned a lot. Some of the villains are so powerful that the government had to allow cities and states to change their policies on vigilantes." Excited to have something to interject, the pastor exclaims, "Oh, that's why our city came up with the case-by-case act? I did not understand all that at first. It was worded so funny." "Yeah," Chad says. "They just gave themselves the ability to declare any so-called hero to be a criminal or to be justified in their actions. They have to base it on certain criteria, but it's really up to the mayor and police chief. It is good that God set it up to where there are powerful people willing to be heroes to overcome the powerful evil ones," the pastor says. The excitement comes back to Chad's face and voice. "As I look into it, I can kind of see that all of them, both hero and villain, have weaknesses. Technically, they could, and some have been taken down by ordinary folks. Besides, what could they do if they ran into a man of God? God's protection is all we need because no weapon formed against us can prosper." Working out really is a passion of his, but not because he desires to be quote-end-quote chiseled. He started working out as a means to honor God by keeping up his body. It is his belief that he should be able to use his body for whatever God might call him to, even the Olympics or the like. His workout consists of stretching, weightlifting, and CrossFit training. He also trains at least once a week with his meteor hammer. His body is well formed and notably well taken care of. He stands at 5'8" and weighs about 160 pounds. His brown hair gives accent to his green eyes. At first glance, his face appears to be youthful because of how well he takes care of his body, but a closer inspection reveals some rugged features that come with age. Even so, with his general shape, energetic movements, and skin texture, it is hard to tell that he is a man that not too long ago became 40. He walks in through the familiar glass doors and finds himself once again inside the walls of Frugal Fitness, a place that is as welcome to him as home. The place is one of the cheapest large chain workout franchises in existence. It places its franchises in lower income areas where property is cheaper. It passes those savings down to its customers but offers top quality workout equipment and services. This is perfect for Chad and his budget, so he has been a member for many years. It allows him to fulfill all his workout needs with the exception of his Meteor Hammer training. While working out, Chad often thinks of the different superheroes and villains in the world, and after the rousing conversation with his pastor, this time is no different. Chad's workout is so ingrained into his psyche that he does it, strains, grunts and all, subconsciously. All the while his mind teems with visions and imaginations relating to things and people he had studied or seen on the news. The perfectly cooled climate rests on him as his pectoral muscles contract, causing the large weight bar to rise off his lower rib cage. The weight's rise is halted temporarily as his arms reach their fullest extension only to reverse and bring the weight back down. That would be kind of cool. He thinks as he contemplates what it would be like to go up against some of the world's most dangerous villains side by side with other heroes. He thinks about a battle he saw between Phage and Springe. Chad once watched with bated breath as the news covered the end of one of their conflicts. Phage seems to somehow be able to create bombs of varying size and power as well as teleport from place to place. Springe, on the other hand, is a master of preparation and traps. Chad thinks. He recalls how, just as Phage, the hero, would escape a trap, out of nowhere he would be in another or dodging some deadly thing. How can anyone who does not have teleportation powers and special gifts contend with such overwhelming circumstances? Chad mumbles as his legs push the heavy weight for the 35th time. His back braces against the bottom cushion of the machine as a base to support the force of his leg extensions. Not to mention if you face Little Sussy, Sorrow, the Pocket, or Augusto. He contemplates. Delving deeper, he thinks. What can you do against someone who has a genetically engineered army of beast, sweats acid, can instantly produce whatever they want, or control sound completely? Yet the heroes find a way. But some of them have great powers too. Balls of light, fierce fighting skills, mimic power, and teleportation are just the tip of the iceberg. Even the ones who seem to have no powers like the Shield seem extraordinary with their ability to handle villains. They stand up for justice and defend the helpless. It's almost biblical. The strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak. His thoughts continue to roam the vast plain of possibilities and the wonders of the powers that some possess. He even begins to think about how he can help and what if he were given powers. The thoughts race through and consume his mind. In such manner, his workout breezes by. Squat thrusts, weighted punches and kicks, presses, and sprinting all pass by unnoticed as he is lost in his imagination. He is completely oblivious to people around him as they sometimes gawk in amazement at his completion of the routine. His far-off look makes it seem effortless. Occasionally, as he thinks about dealing justice to some villain, he throws out a slow-motion thought-filled punch. To him, at that slow speed, the punch is able to crush the jaw of some thug with a machine gun threatening a school full of orphans. It's the kind of punch that is thrown when someone is telling a story about a boxing match or reliving the events of one of their own skirmishes. His reasoning was closer to the latter, except that he could not be reliving the experience since he had not so much as met a real villain or hero in person. "Did you knock him out, son?" inquires an old man who had been watching Chad with interest for some time. For the first time, Chad is fully back at the gym with the cool air hitting his sweaty skin. His cheeks begin to turn red as he realizes that he was being watched while he was in deep thought. He smiles and sort of laughs as if that would take away the embarrassment of swinging at thin air. Chad thinks about how to reply to the old man's question while fighting the embarrassment that has his stomach turning flips. The old man interrupts his processes with, "Your face just kind of looked serious when you were swinging, so I thought I would pull your leg a little, son." Chad can tell the old man was giving him a pass, and he was more than happy to take it. Besides, he has no clever comeback anyway. His chest pounds as his heartbeat reminds him that he has been working out for the last hour. This must be what it is like after the battle for a hero. The sense of accomplishment and the feeling of hard work is good, but it is nothing compared to the feeling that comes with knowing that you saved a life. In some ways, Chad longs for that feeling. He picks up his equipment and prepares to leave the gym. His mind once again begins to slip into the world of heroes, and he finds himself facing off with purveyors of crime. "I would tell the villains to repent and follow the Lord before taking them into custody. If they resist, wham! Pow! And when I hit them, I would say, the hand of the Lord is upon you." He thinks with a smile. Though he enjoys his imagination, deep down he knows he is not cut out for such things. The glass doors and windows leading into the gym stand before him as he makes his way to the exit. Each one is tinted slightly so as to keep the heat from building up and the sun from overstepping its boundaries by creating a blinding glare into the building at evening time. He pushes the double glass doors open and walks through the middle of them as if he needs all that room. The brightness of the sun is no longer hindered by the tint on the glass. It hits him in full force. Walking from the dimness of the gym into the light of outside tends to generate a feeling of newness. The luminescence of the natural light and the touch of sun on the skin tends to create the illusion of escaping from a cave into the light at the end of the tunnel. However, this feeling is short-lived because of the crime-ridden, low-income area that awaits once the outside is reached. It's the type of neighborhood where it is best not to go to, but if it must be done, then it is best to do what's necessary and quickly leave. The gym has a sidewalk in front of it and a major street in front of that. The parking for the facility is on the sides of the gym, so Chad must take the sidewalk to get back to his car. The smell changes from time to time, and sometimes drastically. It's not always a sewer smell, although that is the predominant aroma. It is sometimes the smell of a dead animal rotting in the street mingled with hints of illegal narcotics being inhaled nearby or the mixture of car fumes and heated garbage. On rare occasions, there seems to be no smell at all. The sights mostly match the smells. The gym is beautiful, but the businesses and abandoned stores around it are dilapidated or in disrepair. Most of them have trash strewn about their grounds despite the presence of overfilled heavy dumpsters that are most likely the reason for the heated garbage smell that sometimes permeates. A steamy gas vapor seems to rise from various areas of the street and sidewalk all around. There is a certain dingy look to the whole area as most of the buildings bear markings, indicating that they have been visited by local graffiti artists and gangsters. Chad's mindset begins to switch as he exits the building. He thinks about his wife and what requirements she has of him before he makes it home. Do we need anything from the store? Was I supposed to do anything before I make it home? He thinks. He comes to the conclusion that he is good to go and has already taken care of all his responsibilities. His shoes sound off as they hit the pavement repeatedly like drumsticks, making a sure and steady beat. He knows God has his back, but still he remains vigilant of his surroundings, not wanting to be open to attack. In the distance, occasional car horns, people talking, a lady screaming, and cars driving by can be heard. A lady screaming. He mumbles. It's coming from the direction I'm heading. This never goes well in the movies, but I think I will go check it out. He thinks. A decision like that falls in only one of two categories, foolish or brave. Perhaps because he had just finished fantasizing about heroics, he feels that it would be brave. Or maybe he is just curious. Either way, he makes his way past the parking lot and toward the alley that was formed by the edge of the workout facility and the business next to it. As he approaches, he begins to think of how crazy it is to even be taking a look out of curiosity, yet he continues. His heartbeat is becoming more and more exuberant. So much so that the beat of his feet can almost not be heard by him anymore. What am I doing? He thinks as he comes closer to being able to view what is going on. Trying to convince himself to carry on, he thinks. Maybe it's nothing. However, the more he advances, the more distinct the sounds are. With the edge of the building still blocking his view, he can hear a struggle, and the screams actually start making sense. They are not just screams but actual cries for help. Chad presses on in spite of this, citing that he is so close now and there is no use turning back. He cannot see into the alley because the building's edge blocks his view. Perhaps nothing serious is going on and everything is fine, and if not, maybe the situation won't be too big for Chad to handle. Each step reveals more and more of the alley, and so far, nothing. Even if something is going on, I don't have to do anything about it. It's not my responsibility, so I can just keep going on my way. Chad thinks to help ease his rising trepidation. Gradually, the corner of the building moves left, revealing one guy and a woman on her knees, and finally another guy holding a purse in his clenched right hand. The guys are young, no more than 21 years old each, but more likely teenagers. They dress young, pants that sag, shirts long enough to cover their underwear but tucked to prevent that, nice tennis shoes with appealing designs, and fresh hairstyles. Only one makes a point out of wearing jewelry. The woman had obviously been knocked to her knees. On the left corner of her lips, blood trickles down. Her tears flow down her flushed cheeks. She is older than them, maybe in her 40s, but they show no mercy for her tears, age, or gender. I hit you once already so that you would give me this lovely purse, but there's no money in it, and no credit cards, only this ATM card. Chides the thug holding the purse. His voice is low and raspy, and his words are laced with intimidation. He stares directly at the lady as if she were an empty soda can, insignificant and ready to be crushed on a whim. There is not a hint of sorrow in his eyes as he maliciously torments his helpless prey. Chad watches and listens with slightly weakened knees as the man continues. How many times am I going to have to hit you to get all 4 digits? The lady quivers as she realizes that no matter what she does, it is likely that she will not be allowed to leave unharmed. She forces herself to choose what she hopes for, a quick death to nullify her existence, thus extinguishing all her future hopes and dreams, or to just be beaten and tortured but left alive so that after all the pains and scars heal, she can possibly get back to her life. Would she really want to still be alive with a deformed face or the inability to walk? These types of questions and more cause her every motion to exude fear and uncertainty. Chad looks at her and feels for her. All that keeps going through his mind is that it is so unfair and so against the Bible. Bible scriptures begin to flow into his mind. The strong ought to bear with the infirmities of the weak. Am I my brother's keeper? He shall surely pay. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. The scriptures race through his mind in the ways most familiar to him. A sudden feeling of urgent righteous indignation quickly rises inside the pit of his stomach and burns its way to his tongue, where it finds its exit. Walking over to the guy with the purse, he proclaims, I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, yet if he turns from his sin and does what is just and right, if the wicked restores the pledge, gives back what he has taken by robbery, and walks in the statutes of life, not doing injustice, he shall surely live, he shall not die. His body is moving toward the chaos on its own, but that sudden feeling that is surging within him causes him not to resist it. It does not even allow him to contemplate the repercussions of what is happening. All he can see is that it is not right for a lady, and especially a more mature lady, to be taken advantage of by a trio of male miscreants. Footsteps cause him to close in as he makes his proclamation, however, no one runs in terror. No one immediately apologizes and gives back the stolen property or assures everyone involved that it will never happen again. Instead, it only draws their attention to Chad himself. Who is this freak? One of the would-be robbers exclaims while turning toward Chad and focusing all his attention in that direction. The villain is clearly offended that Chad even has the audacity to say something, let alone actually approach them. His face contorts like the sewer smell is not the only bad smell in the area. As he talks, he sizes Chad up. Taking particular note of Chad's form in his workout attire and the gym bag, he concludes that Chad is coming from the gym. Even at the sight of that athletic figure, his confidence is not swayed because he knows that he has his two-man posse with him in the wings. The man holding the purse turns toward Chad as well and drops the purse. Cracking his knuckles, he says, "You gotta come preach to us, you freak? I don't care how good of a workout you got today, that don't make you a hero." He starts to step toward Chad, and all the others follow suit and form up on the sides of him. "All right, hero," he rasps. "Let's see how you handle yourself with these odds." At that, the guy to his left lunges in and rams his fist directly into Chad's abdomen as if he were trying to break through to his spine. Chad topples and falls to his knees, holding his stomach. With all attention on him, the lady grabs her purse and runs out of the other end of the alleyway. Chad, who is still reeling, thinks, "What now, Lord?" while watching the lady disappear around a corner. Many thoughts swim in his head. Though he understands, there is a slight disappointment in the fact that the lady he just saved had no problems leaving him alone to the wolves. On top of that, his stomach is a little queasy, and he is having trouble taking back in the air that was expelled from the punch. "Look at him crumble," one of the less physically endowed thugs says from behind their leader. The lead thug looks at his group members and points at Chad. They instantly understand and jump into action. They are sort of regular guys who obviously prefer to take orders rather than thinking. The smaller one who had just spoken throws a swinging punch and lands it right on the face of Chad. The second guy uses an uppercut on his helpless victim. It is almost like a 1-2 combo in regard to timing. The first one forces Chad's face and head sideways while the other in quick order knocks him back upright and then over to the opposite side. What does the hero have to say for himself now? The leader rasps and stares at Chad. Still slumping over and on his knees, Chad slowly straightens up. The thugs watch to see what he is going to do or say. Chad is rocked, but he is still conscious. He decides that the best course of action is to say, "I'm sorry," and hope they have mercy on him or have something better to do. His stomach hurts, his face hurts, but if he can just get out those words, there is hope. He opens his mouth and, "Repent and turn from your wicked ways," is all that comes out. "You still want to admonish us with your preaching nonsense?" The leader questions in disbelief. "You aren't just any old freak, are you? You're one of those Jesus freaks, aren't you? Hey, fellas, we have the rare honor of beating up a Jesus freak. I think he wants to forgive us and save our souls. Let's make sure we confess our sins every time we punch him." All three men attack him at the same time with the full intention of showing him their savagery. Punches and kicks fly freely. They even accidentally hit one another a time or two. All the while they taunt him, calling him a Jesus freak. Chad is unable to mount a defense in his condition and just takes the licks, hoping to pass out soon. As he lies over and looks to the end of the alley, a familiar set of legs appears in the distance. Everything is moving slow and going blurry, but it's her. It is the lady he saved, and she is standing there, just pointing at him. Is she now back just to point and laugh because he is getting the beating that she was saved from? Is she mocking him just like the lowlifes who are also thrashing on him? A slight despair comes upon him as he ponders the unfairness of it all. A police car pulls up rapidly behind her, and two officers jump out, yelling, "Hey, you in the alley!" The police break into full-on foot chase mode. One thug looks and yells, "Hey, it's the cops!" They all cease the walloping and flee the scene like birds fleeing the wire at the sound of a discharging gun. For Chad, the scene is still moving slow, and to be truthful, he is not quite able to make his mind function as normal. Everything is real, but everything is also out of sorts. The criminals abscond as quickly as they can but seem to drag away at the pace of a limp-legged zombie. Their voices and the sound of their footsteps is slurred and augmented. Some of the words are unintelligible drawls. Even the police appear to linger as they do their best to capture the vile villains in the midst of their felonious flight. "Stop, police!" is what is heard as they pass by. Even though they are moving slowly to him, soon he finds himself alone just lying in the alleyway, trying to form a coherent thought. But at least he can recognize that he is unable to form a coherent thought. He has taken in so much visual and auditory information but has no idea how to process it. The one thing he can make out is that he is glad that the beating has stopped. Smell, sewer, concrete, blood, and a slight stench of urine on the breeze. Feel, cold shadowy concrete surface, pain all over, heart pounding, and wooziness. Sight, blurred but clearing. Thought process, returning, clearer thoughts, things moving more in real time, ability to assess the situation improving. Suddenly hands are upon him. "Sir, can you hear me?" "Stay with me, sir." He can hear it, and even better, he can understand it. "Sir, what day is it? What's your name?" They are questions he knows just to help them determine how severe the brain injury is, if there is any. "I'm Chad, and it's Friday." He answers. The paramedics continue with their checklist of questions, asking if he is all right or needs to go to the hospital, and he answers the question straightway. He is feeling better and better as time passes, so he refuses the offer to take him to the hospital. A grateful lady, a stranger, waits in the background and watches as the paramedics take care of him. "God, what happened?" he mumbles. One of the paramedics says, "You got beat up while trying to be a hero." Chad does not respond to the paramedic because that is not the meaning of his question, nor is he asking the paramedic. Chad is wondering why God allowed him to get beat up after what felt like God's own divine leading into the alleyway. "Why, God? I don't get it. If you brought me there, then I would think that you would protect me or at least stop the men who were trying to hurt the lady in order to show your strength and ability. I just don't get it." Chad protests. Suddenly a sublimely sweet smell sinks into his nostrils. It's like a synthetic flower perfume with just the right amount of highs and lows. The new scent is unaffected by the previously powerful sewer smell and is in fact a pleasant alternative to it. "Thank you for stepping in, sir," the lady says in a grateful tenor with sugar dripping from every word. The look on her face says it all as the tears slide down the sides of her cheeks. Yes, the tears that Chad saw earlier were still overwhelming her eyes. This time, however, they seem different. They actually express an extreme relief and appreciation, which adds credence to her overall joyful demeanor. It is a pleasant sight for Chad's literally sore eyes as she continues. "I thought that I might die. I was ready to make some decisions that I thought I would never ever make. And worst of all, I even started to doubt God because of the hopelessness of what I was going through. I have been in church all my life, and even I started to doubt. But you were like a warrior angel that showed up just in time. I knew for a fact that you were my angel when you started to speak scripture to those thugs. I feel so sorry for what you have gone through for me, but at the same time I am so grateful you were here. I cannot say thank you enough for all that you have done for me." Chad actually starts to feel better. A small light, like a flame from a candle, begins to grow inside his chest. The flame increases rapidly, burning away the pain, despair, and insecurity that had been forged by the horrendous happenings that he just experienced. Warmth takes over, and he can't help forming a smile on his bruised and swollen face. Trying to show teeth only reveals crimson clods from behind Chad's busted lips. It is at this moment that he realizes what it must be like to be a hero and save lives, and cities and such. "No problem," he replies while reveling in the tremendous feeling of being a hero. "Well, if you're not going with us to the hospital, let us help you up, sir. It's so we can see if you have your balance and coordination still." One of the ambulance attendants interjects while reaching out his hand for Chad to grab. Suddenly, reality returns, carrying all of the pain that was just dismissed by the fulfilling of one of his inner secret dreams. "Do I have to?" Chad grunts with a hint of sarcasm while putting forth the effort to reach up. Stretching out his arm in a simple reaching motion reveals new pains that Chad was not aware of. His shoulder, rib cage, abdomen, and even his lower back give protest to his decision to tough it out. He grabs the hand of the medical attendant. He can feel the cheap disposable plastic glove that covers the paramedic's right hand pressing against the palm of his hand. Chad is aware that he has something to prove, so he measures the force of the squeeze of his helper's hand, and he reciprocates with a little extra force. Not so as to crush the hand, but more to show that he is healthy and able to function on his own. It's nothing the paramedic has not seen before. "Easy there, Tiger," he says in response to Chad's squeeze. "It's all about how well you walk." He fakes it to the best of his ability, but it is obvious he is in pain as he strains his way to his feet. If the pain is this great just getting up, would he be able to stay up? He begins to reconsider going to the hospital even though he does not want to. "Help me, God," he mumbles under his breath as he makes the ascension to an erect position. He checks himself to see if he is woozy. If he is woozy, he knows he will have to try to compensate to make himself look stable. A pain in his side makes him realize that he is almost to the point of show or go. This is it, he thinks as his legs extends into the lock position. Surprisingly, once he is on his feet, he is sturdy and sure. The pain is still present, but he has no dizziness, and in fact, his lower half is unharmed. The criminals focused so hard on his upper body that they neglected to properly bludgeon the lower half. The medical technician nods with approval as he sees the astounding steadiness that supports Chad's stance and movement. Perhaps his martial arts training with the meteor hammer as well as his weighted workout routine made him more stable than others may have been in the same situation. But that approval was all he was looking for, and having received it, his mind is free to think over the situation and how it would affect him. Chad thinks, "Why is crime so bad here? Don't the police do anything? Why aren't they around when you No, I can't say that. They got here pretty fast. So they are around, but the problem must be too big for them. Ouch. Everything hurts. Been a while since I've had a fight. I wonder what my wife is going to say. Who am I kidding? I already know what she will say. I told you not to go to that neighborhood just 'cause the workout place is cheap. You get what you pay for." What did you say, God? Pray about the crime problem? Pray for a solution? Okay, but first let me go home and settle down. The lady thanks him again and goes off to her lot in life, whatever that may be. The medical attendants ask him one last time if he is okay as they pack up their things and go to their next call. Chad says yes. About that time, the police come walking back empty-handed. They make conversation with one another about what just happened and how fast those guys ran. They don't seem to be too upset that they were unable to catch the criminals who assaulted Chad and tried to take the purse of the young lady. Chad can tell that they are not going to lose any sleep over it. They walk directly over to Chad. Though their walk is at a normal pace, Chad is able to see that they have not fully recovered their breath from the chase that they just participated in. The uniforms are darkly colored and set up exactly alike. The radios on their left hips have long coiled wires that lead to a black box on their left shoulders. There's a button on that small box that allows them to communicate with their dispatcher. The voices of others radiate from the speakers as they approach. Some are deep and manly while others are distinctly feminine. One of the cops opens up. "Hey, mister." Beep! He is interrupted by a long blaring tone that was obviously meant to get everyone's attention. A smooth female voice follows with urgency laced throughout it. "I'm dropping a Code 1 home invasion on Janice Street in 20's beat. Need a unit to respond." The two officers look at each other quickly, then turn back to Chad and say, "You don't need a report or anything, do you? We did not catch the guys, and unless you know who they are, we probably won't be able to catch them. But if you see them again or get information on them, you can always make a report then." Chad can see that they were just chomping at the bit. They both have the look of a trained dog in sitting position, eagerly waiting for the master to surrender the treat that it knows it deserves. Their full attention is on Chad, and even their radios are silent. They are like horses at the starting gate, and Chad holds the starter pistol. Chad feels the pressure that is being put on him to let them leave and says, "No, I'm fine." The officer on the right quickly reaches up to his shoulder and grabs the button on that black box, saying, "78 David 20. Clear us information and send the call on Janish. We are right up the street." As he talks, Chad can hear his voice coming out of the other officer's radio. Then that female voice appears again. "That's clear. I'll show you en route." "All right, man, you be careful out here," one of them says to Chad as they rush off to take care of the next call. Chad reaches down to pick up his bag and a pain hits his arm. Ouch. Well, I guess I know the pain of being a hero now. Going to have to make sure that this never happens again. Chad thinks as a feeling of accomplishment creeps over his body. It wasn't the prettiest thing, but technically, I saved her, so I am a hero. Now, if only I can make my wife see it like this.